All right, chapter 10. When Ben walks into science class the next day, 4 or 5 kids are crowded around Miss Tibbetts' desk. He edges closer to see what they're gaping at. A large glass jar with 3 frogs partially hidden in the mud and grass at the bottom. Peepers, he says. Nuh-uh, Frankie says, grabbing from the jar. It's frogs. Here, I'll shake them up so you can see them better. Ben starts to grab for the jar before the frogs get hurt. Just then, Miss Tibbetts walks into the room, and everybody takes a step back, except for Frankie, who's got the jar in his hands. Put it down, Frankie, Miss Tibbetts says calmly. Frankie rolls his eyes and puts the jar back on the desk. Everyone in your seats, the teacher says. You'll all have a chance to look at our friends here. The students straggle back to their to their desks. When the room is quiet, Miss Tibbetts holds up the jar and turns it around slowly. These little guys are hard to find, but now is a good time to catch them. You caught them yourself? Frankie asks. Of course. Cool, says Ryan. Can I see one? You can see them from there. I'm not letting them out today. There are pleads and groans, but Miss Tibbetts ignores them. Has anyone ever seen one outside? Several kids shake their heads. You may not have seen them, but I bet some of you have heard them. Miss Tibbetts says. She looks at Ben. How about you, Ben? Yeah, he says, not looking her in the eye. They're spring peepers. I've heard them behind my house. Can you make their sound for us? Miss Tibbetts asks. Ben hesitates. Come on, Ben, Ryan says. Ben can feel everyone looking at him. He shrugs. I don't know. It's sort of a high peeping sound. He tries to imitate a peeper. Eep, eep, eep. A couple kids will laugh, but Benny says, Oh, I've heard that noise. I heard it every night last week. Me too, someone else chimes in. Let's try it, Miss Tibbetts. Says Miss Tibbetts. Let's make a peeper chorus. All the kids start making peeping sounds. They're having a great time making noises in class. It's something no one ever lets them do. Miss Tibbetts gives them about 30 seconds, then signals for quiet. Can you guys make that sound? Maybe when you walk through at night, you hear it through the woods. See, you got it. No one else? Come on, I'm giving you the opportunity to make some noises. All right. Then Miss Tibbetts gives them about 30 seconds, then signals for quiet. Those little frogs make that big a noise? Frankie asks. They sure do, Miss Tibbetts says. You can hear a bunch of Spadefoots from a long, long way, even when they're singing. What are Spadefoots? Ryan asks. I'm talking about Spadefoot Toads. Miss Tibbetts explains. Their name comes from the rough shovel-like growths on their back feet. They use them like little spades to burrow into the ground. What do they sound like? Jenny asks. Like a big flock of crows crawling, the teacher says. Or some say they sound like hundreds of balloons being rubbed together. I haven't heard a noise like that, Jenny says. Well, Spadefoot toads are very rare around here. In fact, they're listed as a threatened species in our state. And they only come out 1 or 2 nights a year, usually after a rainy spell in April. Miss Tibbetts smiles. If we get a good rain next week, there's a good chance they'll be out. Why only 1 night? Ryan blurts out. They don't have much time, the teacher says, because they only lay their eggs in pools that dry up. Vernal pools, says Ben. Miss Tibbetts gives him a nod. Right, Ben. They choose temporary pools because their eggs will be safer there. There are no fish to gobble them up, but since these pools don't last long, they all have to work fast together. The males come out and sing, and then the females come out and lay their eggs. The males fertilize the eggs. In 2 days, the tadpoles hatch, and within a month, they hop away as little toadlets. So it's all over very quickly. Most people don't even know they're there. What happens to them then? Asked Jenny. They dig deep into holes in the ground with their back feet and bury themselves into the wet earth, up to 8 feet deep. They say they stay there most of the time. That's why you can't find them during the rest of the year. It would be so cool to see them, Ryan says. Well, I was thinking, Miss Tibbets lowers her voice almost to a whisper, like she's telling a ghost story. A sly smile spreads across her face. Everyone leans a little closer. If some of you are interested, we might have a little field trip one night next week. It just so happens I have a pool on my land where the Spadefoots come to breed. Would you like that? The kids all yell their approval. How many of you think you might come? Half the class raises their hands. Ben feels empty inside, like something that belonged to him is being given away to others who don't care nearly as much as he does. He's dying to go, but he doesn't raise his hand. I've made some permission slips, and people who are interested need to take one and bring it back signed. Your parents will have to bring you to my house and pick you up afterwards. I'll have to let you know at the last minute what day it will be, though. We'll just have to watch the weather. What day do you think it will be? Ryan asks. Well, they're forecasting for rain Wednesday and Thursday. Let's hope they're right. I don't think your parents will want you going on a field trip on the weekend. When Miss Tibbets hands out the permission slips, Ben takes one and stuffs it into his backpack. On the way back to Miss Kutcher's class, Frankie sneers. Who wants to go in the woods with the frog lady? Arr! Not me. I do, Ben thinks, but I can't. Wait, Frankie yells. Her name isn't Miss Tibbets, it's Miss Ribbit. Ribbit, ribbit, he coughs. He's beside himself at how funny he is. Ben just glares at him. The next Monday, half of the class brings in their permission slips. The other half either can't go or doesn't want to go. Ben's permission slip is still in his backpack, unsigned. There's no rain that day or the next day. It's like Massachusetts has changed almost overnight from a cold, dark, rainy, muddy place into a sunny world full of life. The skies are blue every day, and the temperatures rise into the 60s. On Wednesday, a few kids wear shorts to school. Is it going to be tonight? Ryan asked Miss Tibbets. He's asked the same question at least 24 times over the past 2 days. It doesn't look like it, the teacher says. It's got to really rain hard. Ben watches, feeling farther and farther away from everything and everybody. But what happens if it doesn't rain enough? Janice asked. The Spadefoots will wait until next year, Miss Tibbets says. They can wait 3 or 4 years before they lay eggs. 4 years? We'll never see them, Ryan wails. Nature takes its time, Miss Tibbets says. Unlike most people, nature is very patient. Thursday starts out sunny, but by 9 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of reading, the skies start to darken. By the time Ben gets to Miss Tibbets' class, it looks like it could start raining any second. Tonight? Ryan asks. Is it tonight? I don't think so, Miss Tibbets says. Most scientists think that the Spadefoots get their message from the rain seeping into the soil, so the ground won't be soaked enough tonight. But what if it happens over the weekend? Someone asks. We're going to miss it. Let's just wait and see what happens, Miss Tibbets says. The skies stay gray. The clouds thicken and the air feels damp and heavy, but the rain doesn't come. It's kind of like how it looks out right now, isn't it? It's not quite raining, but it looks like it's going to. At home, that night, Ben spreads out everything he has so far for his geography report. He's downloaded information off the internet and made notes on some index cards, but he can't seem to get interested. It all seems dry and boring. He's staring at the wall above his desk when he hears the phone ring. Ben! His mother calls. It's Toby! Finally, Ben thinks. He's been sending his friend emails for days and hasn't heard back. He even called a couple times and left messages. Lizard Man, he says as he picks up the phone. Hi, Toby answers. His voice sounds uneasy. Oh no. How's Arizona? Okay. How's Massachusetts? It stinks as usual, Ben says. Too bad, says Toby. Ben waits for Toby to say more, but he doesn't. He wonders why Toby called if he doesn't want to talk. Toby's always easy to talk to. The silence at the other end of the line feels strange. "How's Lenny?" Ben asks. "Well, that's why I'm calling." Toby's voice is tight and thin. "My mom said I should." Ben grips the receiver to his ear. "Something happened," Toby finally goes on. "He got sick or something, and I found him in the terrarium." "Wait," Ben says. "You mean he died? He's dead?" "Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mean to." They're both silent for a moment. "I'm really sorry, Ben." "I'm really sorry, Ben." Didn't you feed him right?" Ben feels tears welling up in his eyes. What were you feeding him?" "No, I did. I mean, Dad said maybe he was old or something. He didn't like the change when he came to my house. Or, goodness, I'm tickling my throat again. Now I lost it. No, I did. I mean, Dad said maybe he was old or something. Or maybe he didn't like the change when he came to my house. But you were supposed to take care of him." "I know. It wasn't my fault. I didn't." Goodness. Ben can tell that Toby is close to tears too. He doesn't know what to say. He's afraid he's going to get so mad he'll say something really stupid. Goodness. "Ben," okay, Ben mutters. "I'll talk to you later." "Okay, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry." Ben hangs up first. Oh my goodness. Has anyone ever had a tickle in their throat? No. You have it? Ben hangs up first. He puts his jacket on and goes outside where no one can see him or hear him. This is stupid, he tells himself. The dumb lizard was 2,000 miles away. You probably would have never seen him again anyway. But Ben feels like he's lost more than a pet. He sits down on the back steps and stares out into the woods behind his house. The spring peepers are calling, and so are the American toads. He looks up. He can't see any stars. He wonders when the rain will start, and that makes him think of the Spadefoots. He'd love to see them, but that would mean he'd have to talk to Miss Tibbets. Thinking about Miss Tibbets makes him think about the snakes and his dead lizard. And it just goes around and around in circles until his stomach tightens up again. "Ben, are you out there?" His father calls out in the back door. The light comes on. "Yes," Ben answers. "What are you doing?" "Listening," he says. "Well, it's time to come in, unless you're planning on spending the night out there." That sounds like a good idea to Ben. At least out here, he wouldn't have to deal with people. But he gets up and trudges onto the back porch. "You okay?" his father asks. Ben nods. "Yeah, just wondering if it's going to rain." "Feels like it to me." Ben tries to slip by his father, but the father grabs his shoulders and looks at him. "You sure you're okay?" "My lizard died," Ben says. He knows it's more than that, but it's the simplest thing to say. His father wraps his arms around Ben and just holds him there for a while. Ben buries his face into his father's sweater. It smells like his dad. "Things will look better in the morning," he says. "Why don't you give it up and go to bed?" Ben nods. He goes back into his room and puts on his pajamas. He doesn't really care about his homework. He doesn't care much about anything. Ben wakes up in the middle of the night. Sheets of rain are lashing against the windows of his room. He burrows down into the blankets. He's like a spadefoot deep down in the earth. He falls asleep listening to the sounds of a rainstorm. Who feels like they sleep better when it's raining? I felt like I slept so good because of the rain. It's still raining when Ben gets up. At breakfast, he goes through his backpack, finds the permission slip from Miss Tibbets, and asks his mom to sign it. She reads it over and frowns. "Ben, it says here that it's for a weeknight." But it didn't happen yet, and it might happen tonight because it's raining now." But I can't imagine she'd have kids come over to her house on a Friday. But what if she does? "Just sign it, please," Ben pleads. His mother signs the paper and hands it back to him. You're lucky to have a teacher who will spend time with you outside of school, she says. Yeah, Ben says. I know. Ben doesn't have science on Fridays, but after lunch, he goes to Miss Tibbetts' room. She's sitting at her desk, peeling an orange. Hi, Miss Tibbetts, he says. Hello, Ben. He walks over and hands her the permission slip. This is a little late, she says. I thought there was some reason you just didn't want to come. I know. Ben takes a deep breath and clears his throat. But I was thinking, if you're going to go look at the Spadefoots, I'd like to come. Miss Tibbetts puts down her orange and peers at Ben. There's no field trip now, she says. I said I'd only do it if it was on a weeknight. It's Friday. I know, but... Ben can feel the secret inside him trying to work its way out. But he can't tell her what happened. He just can't. He swallows. But I still want to come with you to look at for the Spadefoots. Have your parents call me, Miss Tibbetts says. If it's okay with them, then I'd love to have you. Okay. Okay, says Ben. Do you think tonight's the night? Seems like it to me. It's now or never. Okay, says Ben. I'll bring my new boots. New boots, huh? Miss Tibbetts says with a smile. Okay, I'll be waiting to hear from your parents. Are you almost ready? Ben's mom calls out. Miss Tibbetts said she'll be by for you in 10 minutes. I'm ready now, Ben says, hurrying into the living room. I want to go too, Agatha whines Agatha. You don't even like frogs. Ben wonders if there's actually a chance his parents would let her go. He hopes not. I told you no, Aggie, Miss Maroney says. You have a gymnastics meet tomorrow. You'll have to be in bed early. I still want to go, Agatha says. You still can't, Ben says. Agatha says. She spins on her heels and heads off to her room. Ben parks himself on the arm of the sofa where he can see the street. It seems like he's been waiting forever. But finally, Miss Tibbetts' old station wagon pulls into his driveway. Are you sure you want to go out tonight? His mom asks. It's really pouring. Ben rolls his eyes. It has to be raining, Mom. That's when they show up. You're going to get soaked, his mother says, smiling. He can tell that she's happy he's going. I've got a raincoat, Ben says, and these. And he holds up his new boots. His mom shakes her head. Well, you wouldn't catch me wading around in all that muck. She reaches to zip up his coat. She can't help herself. Mom, I can do it, he says. He pulls his hood over his head and dashes out the door. Who would be interested in doing that? Going out and looking for Spadefoots like that? Only a couple of you? Really? Out in the rain?
Yeah, I love when we go to
Yeah, me too. I love being outside.
I find the rain more calming.
Yeah. You ready? Miss Tibbetts asks once he hops in her car. Ben nods. Good. You can put the waders on when we get back to the house, she says. You're going to need them. They drive through the night with the rain pattering on the car roof and the tires hissing over the wet roads. Miss Tibbetts keeps a one-way conversation going the whole time. He hasn't seen anyone this excited since they took his sister Agatha to ride horses on her 7th birthday. I've never seen a more perfect night. I just can't wait. I'm wondering how many there'll be this year. The last time I was out on the right night, there must have been a dozen pairs. We'll just have to see. How much is a dozen pairs? How much is that? A dozen pairs.
12.
Okay, that's a dozen.
24.
24, because they're in pairs, so a dozen pairs. Good. No, now I lost my spot. Oh, we'll just have to see. A dozen pairs? That's all? Ben asked. That doesn't even seem like very many. That's all, of course. When my husband and I first started counting them, there were lots more. And as far as I know, no one else has ever spotted any Spadefoots in the area. We've found out a few other vernal pools, but no Spadefoots. Ours is the only place. Miss Tibbetts cuts her sentence short and Ben looks over at her. There must be some other ones around here somewhere, he says. I don't know. There aren't many left. The state now lists them as threatened, on the verge of being endangered. You mean endangered? Like almost extinct? Like the golden toads in Costa Rica? Right. There are still plenty of eastern Spadefoots in other states, but their numbers have really dwindled in Massachusetts. Why? Well, it's the farthest north they live. There are fewer and fewer places for them to call home. To many people, too many trees coming down and houses going up. Habitat lost. She flips on her turn signal and slows down. But let's not talk about that tonight. Tonight, our mission is to see how they're doing. Miss Tibbets leans over the steering wheel and peers through the windshield. She slows even more until they're barely moving. What are you doing? Looking for toads or salamanders? This is the place where they hop over the road to get to the pool. I found a couple of squashed toads every year. Look! There's something moving right there! Miss Tibbets steps on her brakes and they lurch to a stop in the middle of the road. She's crazy, Ben thinks. But then he sees a small form in the beam of the headlights. Go look, Ben. See what it is. Ben looks both ways for cars. The road is quiet and dark in either direction. Then he opens his door. Be careful, Miss Tibbets warns. He trots out in the front of the station wagon into the path of the headlights. There, 15 feet from the car, is a small, huddled form of a toad. When Ben picks it up, it moves its hind legs feebly as it's trying to get away, then hunches down in his hands. Ben runs back to Miss Tibbets' side of the car where she rolled down the window. He holds out the toad and Miss Tibbets shines the flashlight on it. Oh, she mutters, it's a regular old American toad. Dime a dozen. Still, it's cute. She strokes its head. Ben remembers how she kissed the frog in class. All right, she tells Ben. Take this little girl and put her on the other side of the road so she doesn't have to hop across it. She's so cold, she's not moving very fast. Ben carefully puts the toad in the wet grass on the side of the road and climbs back into the car. When Miss Tibbets pulls into the driveway and shuts off the engine, the rain sounds even louder on the roof of the car. You know, Ben, we make a good pair, you and me, out here hunting toads. She pockets her keys and opens the car door. Everyone looking for a home. Ben isn't sure what she means by the last remark, but she's out of the car before he can say anything. Put the boots on, she calls to him. Let's go into the backyard. Ben pulls off his sneakers and opens the door so he can pull the big boots on. As soon as he climbs out of the car, Miss Tibbets is already scurrying around the side of the house like a kid hurrying to see what's under the Christmas tree. He follows. The rain is pattering on the roof of his jacket. He pulls off his head and feels the cold wetness on his forehead and neck. And as he comes around the side of the garage, he's nearly blinded by a bright light. Oh, sorry, Miss Tibbets says. The beam switches off, and he can see that she has strapped a light on her forehead, so it moves wherever she turns her head. Come on. She motions for him to follow and walk across the grass. When she reaches the edge of the woods, she steps so quickly that Ben bumps into her. She holds up her hand. Shh, she says. Just listen. Ben doesn't hear anything at first. At least not anything he hasn't heard already. The rain, the thunder off in the distance, the wind in the trees, the peepers calling, and the toads trilling. What? He asks. Listen, there they are. Ben listens hard. Then he hears a layer of noise in the lower register. Like a tree full of crows cawing or a bunch of people snoring. Is that the Spadefoots? He says. That honking noise? That's them. They stand there a little longer just listening. Finally, without a word, Miss Tibbets gestures toward the woods. Flashlights still off. They walk across the yard and across the field. The thunder crashes, closer now, and a torrent of the rain sweeps past them. Gusts of winds blowing the spidery branches of trees back and forth. Ben shivers. He has to hustle to stay close behind Miss Tibbets. This time, she doesn't stop to look at tree bark or wildflowers. She doesn't even look back to make sure he's there. As they make their way through the woods, the call gets louder. Spadefoot voices calling out one after another, grunting for all they're worth. Ben can't help but feel he's at a fairy tale, following a weird old magical woman deeper into the dark woods or forest. He can't believe it's real. Miss Tibbets stops at the edge of the pool. Dripping tree branches droop over the dark water. The pond looks bigger than it did the other day. Miss Tibbets puts a finger against her lips. They stand and listen. A riot of sound rises and falls all around them. They're surrounded by a crazy orchestra. The wind in the trees, the thunder in the skies, and the rain pattering on the pool and their jackets. The spring peepers are chirping in the distance, and the little Spadefoot Toads right before them leading the sympathy. Miss Tibbets steps into the pool and motions for Ben to follow. The moment she wades in, the Spadefoots stop calling. "It's all right," Miss Tibbets whispers. They'll start again." Even in wading boots, Ben can feel the cold water around his feet and ankles and legs. He shivers again. He's not sure if it's from the cold or excitement. They stand, silently waiting. Can you make that sound? Another starts up, then several more. After a minute has passed, Ben figures there must be at least a dozen calling from different parts of the pool. "There's a lot," Miss Tibbets says. Even in the dark, Ben can see she's smiling, and he smiles back. Then she laughs out loud, a high-pitched girl-like giggle. "Why are you laughing?" "Oh, it's so silly," she says. "What?" "My husband Thomas used to tell a story that he made up when he was little. He said if that you listen carefully when all the toads are out, you can hear the overtoad." "The overtoad?" "Right. It's something he made up, like he's the king of toads, or the spirit toad that watches over all the toads in the places where they live. And they're all out calling, and the overtoad joins in. We used to laugh about it. 'Watch out,' he'd said. 'It's the night for the overtoad.'" Miss Tibbets makes a croaking sound. "Can you hear it, Ben? I think tonight is the night for the overtoad." Ben loves the idea of the overtoad. He almost expects to see it rise up over the pool, 20 feet tall, protecting all the little toads. Is this a real thing?
No.
Okay, just making sure. He can't explain why, but he feels a chuckle welling up inside him. The laughter bubbles out of his throat and sets Miss Tibbets to laughing again. Ben tries to stifle his giggles, but the more she laughs, the more he does. This time, noise doesn't seem to bother the toads. They keep calling. We're close. A couple more pages. Ben catches his breath, then tries to imitate the Spadefoot sound. Pretty close. Miss Tibbets makes a higher-pitched calling noise. Both of them stand in the pool in the rain, adding their voices to the Spadefoot chorus, calling out to the overtoad. "It's crazy and silly and amazing," they're all saying. "We're here! We're here! We're alive! We're alive!" Miss Tibbets motions for Ben to come closer to her, and she switches on the light strapped around her head. She shines it around the pool, turning this way and that, then stops the beam on the branch sticking out of the pool. She leans over to Ben so Ben can hear her above all the noise. "Look! There!" Ben sees a little Spadefoot in the spotlight, resting on the branch floating on the surface of the water. Miss Tibbets wades over to it, and Ben follows. She picks up the toad carefully and directs the light back to the branch. Just below it, there's another toad swimming through the water. She scoops that one up too, so she has one in each hand. This is a male, the one that was calling. Here's the female. She turns it over. See how fat it is? It has a bunch of eggs to lay. Here, take a toad. The male Spadefoot crouches low in Ben's hand. It's smooth, not like the other toads he's held. He can clearly see the 2 yellow stripes on its back. The eyes are a shiny metallic gold. Miss Tibbet strokes her toad's head. Just think, she says. They come here every spring. This little pool has been their home for the ancestors of these toads for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. They were probably here before people even lived in this area. Wow, says Ben. Wow, Miss Tibbets repeats. Cute little guy. Yeah. Ben can feel the toad's smooth belly on his palm. Imagine a family living in a place for thousands of years. Imagine, says Miss Tibbets. They let the toads slip back into the water and watch them swim to the branch. Let's count the couples, Miss Tibbets suggests. Trying as best as they can to avoid counting any toads twice, they wait around the pool looking and listening for the Spadefoots. Working in the rain for half an hour, they come up with 16 pairs and 6 individuals. There's several more than last year, Miss Tibbets says. Great. It is great. It's wonderful. I think we're all done. They wade out of the pool and stand on its edge very close to one another. It's still noisy with the rain and wind and thunder and toads and frogs. But Ben feels quiet inside. And suddenly, clearly, he knows it's time. What do you think it's time for?
Dumb snakes.
To what?
He's going to tell Miss Tibbets
About the snakes. Ooh. Miss Tibbets? Yes, Ben? I let your snakes go. She turns her head. She's still got her headlamp on, and the bright light hurts his eyes. He can barely make out what the details are of her mouth and eyes and nose. She's looking right at him. He holds his breath, wondering what she'll say. Oh, she says. Ben shuts his eyes to keep out of the light. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I was curious, but I shouldn't have messed with the cage. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry if they got out and died. I didn't mean for it to happen. She doesn't speak. And then she feels her hand on his shoulder. It's all right, Ben, she says. I'm sorry too. But thank you for telling me. The relief is tremendous. He doesn't know why, but he begins to cry. Great sobs come from deep inside of him, catching him totally off guard. Miss Tibbet switches off her headlight and puts an arm around him. They stand there awkwardly by the side of the pool. The rain splats down against their raincoats. Ben's body heaves up and down, and he can't make it stop. I'm sorry. Ben takes a deep breath and lets his sobs subside. I'm sorry, he repeats over and over. I'm sorry. Of course you are, his teacher says over the sound of the rain. Anyway, it doesn't really matter about the snakes now. She pauses and then she says, maybe they'll find a new home somewhere else. Wiping his face, Ben looks up at her. At first, he thinks it's the rain, but then he sees there are tears coming down her cheeks, too. Why are you crying? Oh, I'm sorry, too. For me. Yes, for you, and for all this. She sweeps her arm in a semicircle, gesturing to everything around her. What do you mean? Nothing, she says. No, really, what are you sorry about? She shakes her head again. Does it have to do anything with your sister-in-law? What your sister-in-law said the other day? She doesn't answer. What's happening? Is it something about your home? In a way. Why? How? It's complicated, Ben. Tell me, please, Ben says. He really wants to know. For a moment, just for a second, he doesn't see Miss Tibbets as a teacher. It's like he's looking at her through a magical pair of binoculars that shows who someone really is, not how they fit in their own little model of a world. Miss Tibbets sniffs and laughs again, wiping the rain and tears from her cheek with the back of her hand. Well, fair is fair. You told me your secret, I'll tell you mine. But let's do it inside over something warm. I love these toads, but I'm certainly not one of them. She turns away from the pool and heads down the trail toward her house. The whole way back, Ben listens to the toads calling out, We're here! We're alive! We're here! All right. Keep your book right at your desk. Okay.